Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Global God Choice. Only I choose Saiyan Bloodline. Chapter 56. Kamehameha. Conquer Mothra. In the air, Shu Heng and Shu Xiaojia slowly suspended and stood in the air. In Shu Heng's hand, he firmly grasped the device, Oka, that was knocked away by the monster. What's this? Shu Xiaojia looked at the thing in Shu Heng's hand curiously, and was a little puzzled. Before Shu Heng took her with her, she was desperately rushing on the road. It can be said that she did not stop along the way. Is it just to get this thing? The long-distance use of flying technique still consumes a lot of people. In fact, she and Shu Heng had already arrived for a while, because they were too exhausted, so they hid aside and watched the battle secretly for a while. After the device appeared, Shu Heng rushed out without any hesitation despite being discovered by everyone. This thing is called Oka, the monster controller, the key to all events. Shu Heng explained slowly. This was carefully crafted by the imperial organization that convened a large number of top scientists and spent years and huge funds. It can use specific sound wave frequencies to simulate the pronunciation of monsters, so that humans can communicate with monsters. The Emperor organization just wants to use this thing to control the monsters all over the world. At this time, the device Oka was being grasped by Shu Heng. That's it, can you control the monster in 360? Then what should we do now? That big bug is crazy now, can this Oka really be controlled? This bug has just hatched, but its strength is estimated to have reached the master level. Shu Xiaojia wondered sounded. She didn't quite understand how this small device could control the behemoth. Especially now that the monster is still in a state of rampage, ramming left and right frantically. Shu Heng turned his head and looked at the monster. Everything around the monster has been smashed into chaos by it. The giant steel frame surrounding the monster has been knocked out by it, and it seems that it is about to rush out. There were still gunshots all around, and rays of light shot at the Mothra larva. It was the security personnel of the base, who were dodging and shooting at the same time. But apparently it didn't work. Monsters aren't afraid of regular gunfire. Even if this beef monster is just a larva, its thick skin can still withstand regular bullets. Originally, the scientist Emma just now planned to use Oka to quell the crazy monster. But before he could use it, he was knocked away by the monster and disappeared. Emma was hit by the giant beast, her eyes were full of gold, and her whole body was in severe pain. Therefore, she did not see where the Oka device fell. And the people around, all the mental attention, were all attracted by the crazy monster. Unexpectedly, no one found Shu Heng floating. Above the sky, Shu Heng watched the monster twisted madly. It is also uncertain whether this little device Orca will actually work. So, he made a decision. Help me get it. Shu Heng handed the love card in his hand to Shu Xiaojia next to him. Immediately afterwards, he folded his hands by his side, and a strange aura slowly radiated from Shu Heng's body. Shu Xiaojia, who was on the side, felt the strange aura, and there was suspicion in her eyes. The center of the base. Mothra was still roaring, and attacking frantically, as if to eliminate all the threats he felt. The giant steel frame, which had been completely smashed by Mothra, collapsed suddenly. It slowly wriggled and climbed out of the bounds of the steel frame. The mouth was still spinning silk and spraying everywhere. At this moment, there are only scattered corpses around it, and there are no living people. Everyone, evacuate to the base. Someone issued an order through the broadcast. They have lost confidence and understand that these weapons alone cannot deal with the out-of-control behemoth. All security personnel began to evacuate to the surrounding area, and try to stay away from the monster in the middle of the base to avoid being killed by it. Suddenly, the Mothra larva turned its head and crawled in one direction. Looking in the direction it was crawling, a figure was struggling constantly, as if trying to stand up. That was Emma, the scientist, who was thrown away by Mothra just now and was seriously injured. There was not a single living person around Emma, and there were corpses all around. Because everything that is active has already evacuated towards the surrounding area. Emma. The surrounding soldiers, looking at Emma who was lying on the ground, seemed to want to come forward to rescue her. After all, if this scientist dies, the loss will be huge. But in the face of the approaching giant beast, no one dared to go, because it was a near-death experience. Roar. Finally, Mothra slowly wriggled and crawled in front of Emma. The body stood upright and raised a huge roar to the sky. Then, the head turned towards Emma and smashed hard. This time, it will smash all the threats in front of it. Just when the monster of Mothra was about to crash into the place where Emma was. Above the sky, shout loudly. Turtle, Pi, Chi, Gong. A huge beam of light, from top to bottom, slammed into Mothra's abdomen. The terrifying power blasted Mothra's huge body directly out, raised it high, and then fell ruthlessly. Finally hit the ground heavily. Make a bang. Then. The entire base is dead silent. Global God Choice. Only I choose Saiyan Bloodline 57. Chapter 57. Chapter 57. Shu Hang, full of aura, incredible power. After the huge beam of light blasted away Mothra's huge body, it seemed that the power did not diminish at all. The shock wave continued to move forward, and finally slammed into the ground fiercely. Next up, boom, there was a loud bang, and a deafening explosion sounded from the ground. On the ground, the dirt was flying. The originally flat ground was blasted to shreds. Huge cracks, like spider webs, spread everywhere. At the center of the explosion, a huge deep pit appeared. For a time, smoke and dust were everywhere. In the center of the entire base, thick dust is scattered everywhere, directly don't split into two. Everyone in the base swept their eyes around, wanting to know what happened. Finally, someone followed the direction of the beam of light and found Shu Hang floating in the sky. Then, one after another shocked voices came from all directions. My God, what is that? Is it an alien? Magic. This is magic. They must be magicians. It is the blessing of the gods. You can actually fly. Could it be the angel of God who came to save us? No, it's God. It's God who comes in person. Unbelievable exclamations emanated from the base from time to time. Those were the security guards who were scattered all over to avoid the monster Mothra just now. With the passage of time, the smoke and dust around him gradually descended. The sight became clear again. Around the base, security personnel started to come out of the hidden place, looking at Shu Hang and Shu Xiaojia above the sky with shocked expressions. They couldn't understand why someone could actually float in the air. There was no flight device at all, only two thin silhouettes, just suspended in the air so quietly. They couldn't think of any other reason besides magic. And besides Shu Hang, Shu Xiaojia was also shocked, and she couldn't believe what she saw just now. Shu Hang, the one I used just now, is Kamehameha. She was right next to Shu Hang, so she could see all Shu Hang's movements clearly. That huge beam of light came from Shu Hang's hands. The power of the beam of light, and the damage it caused, is the level of a great master. You know, through 4 years of study, all students who can reach the level of the Grand Master's combat power before graduation can be rated as outstanding graduates. It can be famous even in the whole country. That is the pride of the school, and can get a lot of graduation awards. Shu Hang is a freshman and has only been in school for less than a month. This experience is only for new students. When Shu Hang performed the flying technique before, she was shocked once, because she knew the difficulty of learning. However, now, Shu Hang has performed Master Roshi's famous stunt, Kamehameha. It was something she never thought of. In the Dream Ruins, Shu Xiaojia also saw Kamehameha, which was used by Shang Feng. However, the power of Shang Feng is completely different from this one. The Kamehameha used by Shang Feng is a ball, and it was also enhanced by her. Having seen Shu Hang's Kamehameha, she couldn't believe that the moves used by Shang Feng were the same as Shu Hang. A big question mark appeared in Shu Xiaojia's heart. This class of freshmen, Shu Hang and Shang Feng, who is the inheritor of Master Roshi? Also, how many secrets does Shu Hang hide? He didn't pay attention to the shock in the hearts of the people around him, and he didn't care about Shu Xiaojia next to him. Shu Hang's attention was now firmly on the monster Mothra. All plans start from here. Only by testing Oka's function and successfully controlling Mothra can we start the next step. Thinking of this, Shu Hang pulled Shu Xiaojia and slowly flew down. Go to that woman, help me watch her, don't let her die, Shu Hang said to Shu Xiaojia. That was Emma, who was injured just now, the key scientist of the Imperial Organization and one of the inventors of Oka. If she dies, the next thing will be difficult to arrange, and I still hope that she will lead the way to Ghidorah later. After explaining things to Shu Xiaojia, Shu Hang turned his head and looked at the Mothra larva that he had just sent flying. On the ground, there is a hole of unknown depth, which was blasted by Shu Heng's Kamehameha just now. Not far from the deep pit, the Mothra larva was lying on the ground, trembling constantly. The figure is constantly twisted, as if struggling to get up. At the head, the skin was torn, and blood was slowly gushing out of the huge wound. Mothra was injured quite a bit by being hit by Kamehameha just now. Shu Heng carried the monster controller Oka and walked towards Mothra. In the distance, I felt a terrifying aura that was gradually approaching, and Mothra's body seemed to be getting bigger. Strange screams kept coming out of his mouth. I don't know if it was fear or anger. Shu Heng took the orca and placed it not far from Mothra. The right hand stretched out and lifted the cover of the orca device. Whoa, whoa. As soon as the cover was opened, a peculiar sound wave was emitted from the orca instrument and spread to all directions. The orca device was originally developed to be used in the deep sea to communicate with whales. The purpose is to inform the whales and prevent them from stranding. The Emperor organization, after years of research, has improved it into a sonar device that can simulate the sound wave signal of monsters, allowing monsters to mistake humans for the same kind. By emitting sound waves similar to monsters, the purpose of controlling monsters is achieved. Which frequency? Shu Heng constantly adjusted the device, hoping to make it emit the same sound waves as the monster. Buzzing, buzzing. Finally, when Shu Heng adjusted to a certain frequency, Mothra, who was constantly twisting and roaring in front of him, seemed to tremble slightly. Seeing that his adjustment had an effect, Shu Heng smiled. Immediately afterwards, he continued to adjust Oka, a special sound wave mixed with special information, which was sent from the device. Die now, or surrender to me, and kill all the human beings in Wangwo. This is Shu Heng's message to the Mothra larva. On the opposite side, Mothra gradually became quiet after struggling fiercely. The sound it made also began to become gentle and friendly, no longer roaring, and it was no longer a ripping off everything. Apparently Mothra understood Oka's voice. Finally done. Successfully controlled Mothra. Looking at Mothra, who wasn't madly twisting and struggling, Shu Heng understood that the plan began to move in the direction he had expected. Just as Shu Heng happily watched Mothra being subdued, a sudden change occurred. Boom. A deafening explosion sounded, and the gravel splashed. A huge hole was blasted out of the base wall. A large group of armed men with guns rushed in. Yi Bei didn't care about this, because everything was within his expectations. Finally here, terrorist, Jonah. A huge hole appeared on the wall around the base, which was blasted by the militants with a rocket launcher. Then, armed men armed with various firearms rushed in from inside. Fierce confrontations began with armed men inside and outside the base. Da 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 da. The sound of fierce gunfights suddenly came from all around. Listening to the sound of gunfire all around, Shu Heng did not move. Oka is in his hands, he just needs to stand here and wait, and those people will naturally come to him. The new group of terrorists seems to be very experienced. The battle plan is well planned, and teams of people cooperate with each other. The security personnel in the base are not opponents at all. At the same time, the terrorists' hands were full of energy, and rockets flew around one by one. There were explosions around, and the fire was soaring into the sky. The existence of Shu Heng was not discovered at all. Not far behind Shu Heng, Shu Xiaojia took Emma and flashed around, dodging bullets flying everywhere to prevent Emma from being swept away by the bullets. Shu Xiaojia's own combat power value is also as high as 300 or more, although it can't compare to Shu Heng's abnormality. However, he was considered a super genius anyway. The combat strength of an ordinary person was only 5. Even with a gun, he could not pose any threat to Shu Xiaojia. All the bullets were easily dodged by Shu Xiaojia. Emma beside her was unscathed, not hit by a single bullet. It was just the impact of the monster just now, which made her whole body hurt and her consciousness was blurred. In addition to everything in front of her, she felt like she was in a dream, and she kept pinching her thighs fiercely. Gradually, the gunfire began to subside. The security personnel in the base are absolutely not the opponents of this group of terrorists. Soon the entire base was occupied by militants. Finally, the last shot was over, and all the resistance forces were wiped out. Some of the security personnel were disarmed and thrown on the ground, while others were directly beaten to death. The terrorists soon surrounded the base area. That's where the Mothra larva is located, as well as where Shu Heng is. In the crowd, a white-bearded white man stepped out. He was the leader of the terrorists, Jonah. In the movie, after he captured the monster controller Oka, the world awakened the underground monsters. The alien creature, Ghidorah, the king of monsters, was also released by this group of people with Emma. At this moment, the terrorist leader, Jonah, swept his eyes around, and finally found the monster controller in Shu Heng's hand, with a bit of surprise in his eyes. Is this guy too calm? He didn't even run away during the fierce shootout here just now. But soon, Jonah came back to his senses. Although he didn't understand what happened to the base, it was damaged so much, but now, the situation is clearly under his control. He looked at Shu Heng, stretched out his hand, and ordered coldly, "Hand over it." "Hee, want this? Get it yourself." Shu Heng laughed and just stood there quietly, wanting to see what Jonah would do next. Kill him. Jonah is also a ruthless character, and he raised his right hand without hesitation to give orders to his younger brothers. In an instant, 3 firemen emerged from the crowd. Everyone has a Gatling gun in their hands. Gatling's thick barrel speaks to outsiders of its power. Just now, it is estimated that there are not a few security personnel who died under the 3 Gatling machine guns. Without any nonsense, gunshots rang out. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot flowers katakana middle dot. Bang 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 bang. 3 Gatlings and countless bullets shot towards Shu Heng in the center of the base. Strong firepower coverage surrounded Shu Heng. Thick smoke from the bullets filled the center of the base. Shu Heng. Outside the encirclement, an exclamation sounded. That was Shu Xiaojia's worried voice. Before, she took Emma around to avoid the flying bullets, and unknowingly ran to the edge of the base. Seeing Shu Heng surrounded by fire, she couldn't help but feel a little worried, but the next second, she realized that her worries were unnecessary. How could such an attack be effective against Shu Heng? Haha, it's unbearable. Looking at the flying bullets, Shu Heng smiled disdainfully. He clenched his hands into fists, and the qi in his body circulated frantically. A violent aura erupted from Shu Heng's body violently. The rubble and scrap iron all over his body were pushed straight out by the aura. Immediately afterwards, the countless bullets shot towards Shu Heng instantly stopped, as if they were directly pinched by an invisible hand, imprisoned in the air, and could no longer go any further towards Shu Heng. See the densely packed bullets hovering in the air. The terrorist who shot just now, as well as Jonah, all changed color. My God, what's going on? Is this a superpower? Boss, what's going on here? The voice of fear was spreading, and some people's legs began to tremble slightly, because this was beyond their common sense and beyond their cognition. On the other hand, Jonah, while shocked, quickly calmed down, and then raised his hand to signal everyone not to panic. Oh, it's just the monsters that were researched in the base. Bring the bazooka. Kill this bastard. The younger brothers looked at each other, and soon they took out a bazooka, pointed it at Shu Heng, and pulled the trigger. Boom. The bazooka shot out, heading straight towards Shu Heng. However, the same effect. When the rocket flew several meters around Shu Heng's body, the speed decreased rapidly. Finally, when the rocket was only 1 step away from Shu Heng, it stopped completely. Like other bullets, it was imprisoned in the air and could not enter even an inch. Haha, unbearable power. Seeing the countless bullets being imprisoned all over his body and the rocket, Shu Heng smiled slightly. He developed another usage of qi. Then, no more ink. Shu Heng's power suddenly changed, and the aura surrounding his body exploded completely. The power of qi was released without reservation. The bullet that was imprisoned in the air bounced back instantly and shot out towards the surroundings. Bang, 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 bang. Ellipsis quote. Around, the sound of bullets is endless. The terrorists surrounding Shu Heng were hit by bullets bounced by Shu Heng, screaming one after another. Boom, a loud explosion sounded. The imprisoned rocket was also reflected and hit the crowd of terrorists gathered nearby. Intense flames soared into the sky, and the body was blown flying everywhere. After a while, the smoke of gunpowder dissipated, and the line of sight resumed. The blood was flowing, and the corpses were scattered and crooked on the ground. Most of the terrorists surrounding Shu Heng died on the spot. There were also individuals who were still alive, slumped on the ground, clutching their bodies and screaming, apparently also being hit by a rebounding bullet. Only the leader, Jonah, was still safe and sound. That was Shu Heng deliberately showing mercy. After all, this guy is still useful. Beside Shu Xiaojia, scientist Emma finally woke up gradually, feeling the huge pain in her leg. She knew that this was definitely not a dream. Seeing this scene, her face was beyond shock. You, really, are, people. Emma's voice trembled. It's a pity that no one answered her. In the distance, after being disarmed, the members of the Al-Qaeda Emperor organization who were thrown on the ground were originally desperate, but at this moment, seeing the horror of the terrorists on the ground, he trembled violently, unable to calm down for a long time. It's not human at all. The devil. This is the power of the devil. The punishment of the devil Satan. The picture of death and injury severely impacted everyone's heart. As for Xu Heng, looking at the terrorists who have almost all been dealt with, his eyes are indifferent. These guys, if they die, they will die, and they are not worthy of sympathy at all. It took a while for the dust at the scene to gradually dissipate. He then walked in the direction of Jonah, who was already frightened. Carrying Oka, there is no weapon in his hand. But with Xu Heng like this, for Jonah, the intimidating power is even greater. Now, Jonah's mind is full of the scene where he was easily killed by his subordinates just now. I ask, you answer. Don't talk nonsense, otherwise, you will die miserably. Soon, an extremely cold and indifferent voice sounded in Jonah's ear. Wide. Global God Choice. Only I choose Saiyan Bloodline 58. Chapter 58. Chapter 58. Alien Creatures. Ghidorah, the King of Monsters. I ask, you answer. Don't talk nonsense, otherwise, you will die miserably. Xu Heng said slowly with cold eyes. On the opposite side, Jonah looked at Xu Heng's face, recalled Xu Heng's demonic behavior just now, and shuddered. You ask, I'll say it, Jonah replied, with a quiver in his voice. He really had never seen anyone who wasn't afraid of bullets. If it is to use the body to resist bullets, it is easy to understand. It can be said that it is a super exercise, which makes the muscle strength far beyond ordinary people. But, directly imprison the bullet. What supernatural power is this? Seeing Jonah's performance, Xu Heng nodded with satisfaction. First, your name. Xu Heng's first question is very simple. When he asked a question, Jonah quickly replied, My name is Jonah, I was a veteran before, and now I'm the leader of this group of mercenaries. Xu Heng only asked one question, but Jonah directly answered three, was obviously terrified by Xu Heng's previous bullet rebound. Even if they are terrorists, they only use conventional weapons. Not bad. Xu Heng had long known that the guy in front of him was named Jonah, but he just deliberately asked him to see if he had lied. The second question, what is the purpose of coming here? What are you doing? He continued to look at the guy in front of him, and he naturally knew that Jonah was trying to snatch the sonar instrument Oka. We came here mainly to find a device called Oka. According to the information we got, that thing can control these huge ancient monsters. If we can get this thing, we will be able to master huge power. Jonah answered honestly, daring not to lie. The third question, what are you going to do after you get the Oka? As soon as Xu Heng finished asking, Jonah hurriedly answered, for fear of being a tad slower. After we get the Orca, we will go to the South Pole immediately. At that time, we will release the King of Monsters, Ghidorah, who sleeps in the ice. Listening to Jonah's words, Xu Heng slightly nodded. All the arrangements Jonah described are basically the same as the plot of the movie in his memory. Haha, I'm honest, I didn't lie to me. Xu Heng smiled. This reaction immediately made Jonah breathe a sigh of relief. However, the next moment, Xu Heng's actions made Jonah bewildered on the spot. He just picked up a firearm on the ground and handed it to Jonah. Gun to you, kidnap me. Xu Heng looked at Jonah and said casually. Jonah was stunned, wondering if he had heard it wrong. Give him the gun and kidnap Xu Heng. Jonah, not so bold to take the gun directly. Just now, he had been frightened by Xu Heng. Don't dare, I really didn't lie, I didn't tell a lie just now, I definitely didn't lie to you. Stop talking nonsense, take it. Kidnap me and take me to your headquarters later. Xu Heng threw the gun at Jonah, then turned his head and shouted towards the edge of the base, Xu Xiaojia. Just now Xu Xiaojia took Emma and kept hiding to avoid being accidentally injured by the flying bullets. Terrorist groups have now been almost wiped out. The danger has been lifted, so he has to let Xu Xiaojia bring Emma out. Emma is one of the researchers of the Orca sonar instrument, and her use of this device is definitely far more than others. Later, Shu Heng plans to follow Jonah to go directly to the South Pole, and Emma can give him a lot of help. Boom. The sound of her feet landing sounded. Shu Xiaojia flew over with Emma and landed next to Shu Heng. Jonah, who saw this scene, widened his eyes again, in disbelief. The man in front of him can block bullets out of thin air, and countless attacks are directly bounced back by him, so forget it. Now there is another little girl who can fly directly. Jonah wailed inwardly. He just wanted to rob a simple robbery. What kind of monsters are these encounters? Shu Xiaojia didn't know what Jonah was thinking. After she landed, she couldn't help but exclaimed when she saw the bullet on the ground. These bullets are estimated to have several thousand rounds. If she was herself, she would have been beaten into a sieve just now. With a sigh, she silently vowed in her heart that she must train hard. Then Shu Xiaojia's eyes turned to Shu Heng. There must be something wrong with Shu Heng looking for her just now. Shu Heng, you called me, do you have any new arrangements? They rushed here with a purpose. Now, Shu Heng's goals have all been achieved, but Shu Xiaojia is not clear about the next plan. Well, we may have to separate. Shu Heng looked at Shu Xiaojia. Later, I will follow this terrorist and ask them to take me to the Antarctic base. And, I will go with Emma. Hearing this, Emma, who was brought over by Shu Xiaojia, was stunned. She looked at Shu Heng. You go to the terrorist headquarters, and you actually want to take me with you. Emma is a scientist of the Emperor organization, and now she is going to be taken to the terrorist's lair. She doesn't understand why Shu Heng arranged this. Hearing Emma's question, Shu Heng smiled disdainfully. Isn't this your original plan? You originally planned to release all the sleeping monsters in the world. He has seen the full movie of Godzilla 2 and knows that Emma is in front of him, although he is known as a scientist. But in fact, after developing Orca, she released sleeping monsters all over the world. In my memory, after Emma was kidnapped by terrorists, his husband, risking his life, finally found her. As a result, Emma not only rejected her husband, but was unwilling to go back with her husband. He also snatched the bomb detonator, personally blew the seal of the Antarctic ice, and released Ghidorah, the king of monsters. It can be said that this Emma, although not a terrorist. However, what she did was more terrifying than the terrorists. I'll take you to the terrorist headquarters, which is exactly what you want, isn't it? Shu Heng looked at Emma with a teasing expression. And Emma, hearing Shu Heng's words, fell silent. Then he said in surprise, how did you know about my plan? I never told anyone. No one should know about it. Of course Shu Heng did not answer Emma. Why would he know about Emma's plan, saying even Emma would not believe it? He looked at Shu Xiaojia. Later, you can stay here and go to the Emperor's organization base 54, which is the sleeping spot of the monster Godzilla. Find a person named Mark. That's Emma's husband, a scientist, and one of Oka's researchers. There is another person named Qinzi, a doctor, who is also one of the monster researchers. Find these two people, help them, monitor the monster Godzilla, don't shoot without authorization, wait for me to come back. After finishing speaking, Shu Heng grabbed two mobile phones from the others and handed one to Shu Xiaojia. Take this, if there is any change, call me immediately. After taking the mobile phone, Shu Xiaojia looked at Shu Heng. Yeah. I follow your arrangement, but, what are you doing in Antarctica? Shu Heng was not surprised by Shu Xiaojia's question. Shu Xiaojia didn't know the direction of the plot. So, although she obeyed Shu Heng's arrangement, she didn't know Shu Heng's purpose, so she couldn't help but be a little curious. So, Shu Heng explained to Shu Xiaojia. I am going to the South Pole, of course, to wake up with my own hands, Ghidorah, the king of monsters. On a bumpy off-road vehicle, Shu Heng and others were heading to the terrorist headquarters. Inside the carriage, Emma was chattering non-stop. My plan is indeed to wake up the sleeping monsters in the world. But, I think, I did nothing wrong. Everything I do is for the earth. It is for the ecological balance. Humans will only continue to destroy the environment and bring disaster to the earth. Emma kept talking about her ideas to Shu Heng, as if she wanted to convince Shu Heng to make Shu Heng agree with her. Did you know, since the birth of industrial civilization, the environment on Earth has begun to deteriorate dramatically. There are steel buildings everywhere, industrial factories everywhere, and highly toxic waste gas is emitted everywhere. Even marine creatures cannot escape the fate of being polluted. The atmosphere is polluted, the land is polluted, and the ocean is polluted. It won't be long before the earth is over. Only monsters can stop this. Monsters can destroy all factories and tear down all steel buildings. Monsters can stop human beings. Monsters can protect the earth. Monsters can save everything. So, my plan is to release monsters one by one to stop humans from polluting the world. Emma, emotional, she thought she was absolutely right. Shu Heng, who was beside him, shook his head disdainfully when he heard Emma's reasoning. So, what you mean is that human beings are guilty, human beings should be killed, and human beings should be exterminated by monsters. All the people in the factory should be destroyed by monsters. Everyone in the building should be trampled to death by monsters. All the achievements of human civilization should be destroyed, right? Shu Heng said suddenly, and Emma was slightly taken aback when he asked. Holy Virgin, stupid virgin, disgusting virgin, childish and ridiculous. Seeing Emma's expression, Shu Heng turned his head in disdain and ignored her. Madonna's disgust is that she likes to stand on the moral high ground and kidnap everyone. After hurting others, she used high-sounding disgusting reasons to comfort herself, hypnotize herself, and tell herself that she was not wrong. Shu Heng came to this world to kill people, but if he wanted to kill people, he would do it directly. Why are there so many reasons? It's just disgusting. Afterwards, Shu Heng closed his eyes directly. Ignore this mad virgin. The off-road vehicle continued to move forward. I don't know how long it took, and a building appeared in everyone's field of vision. That is the headquarters of the terrorists. The terrorist organization, called the Imperial Organization, is only one word different from the Imperial Organization. At this moment, at the entrance of the Imperial Organization building, there is a large group of people who are welcoming Jonah. In front of the crowd, there was a figure standing alone. His name was Eric, and he was obviously the leader of everyone in the Imperial Organization. The off-road vehicle drove to the square of the building. Shu Heng and others walked out of the car. Seeing Jonah, Eric stepped forward and hugged enthusiastically. Haha, Jonah, I'm finally back, have you got the things? Jonah, no answered, but looked back at Shu Heng behind him, because the Orca device was in Shu Heng's hands. Following Jonah's eyes, Eric also saw Shu Heng walking out of the car, and he was immediately puzzled. Who is he? Eric looked suspiciously at Jonah. Eric had never seen Shu Heng before, and it felt very sudden to see such a raw face breaking into his own territory. And Shu Heng, without waiting for Jonah to answer, stepped forward, a mysterious and majestic chi rushed towards Eric. The overwhelming aura covered all parts of Eric's body, strangled his neck, and even made him slowly float into the air. A suffocation rushed into Eric's brain. Jonah from the rear saw this scene, and his eyes were a little unnatural. Just this person, he actually asked Jonah to kidnap him just now. Then, Shu Heng's momentum disappeared, and all the oppression disappeared. Eric fell to the ground and looked at Shu Heng in horror. Shu Heng walked in front of Eric and looked at his eyes. I am here with no malice, just to release all the sleeping monsters. We can cooperate well. Eric, who fell to the ground, was very fear. Just the power he couldn't understand just now, let alone cooperation. Even if he replaced him as the leader, Eric couldn't do anything about it. So, Eric quickly agreed. Cooperation. Cooperation. Let's cooperate well. We are about to go to the South Pole, where there is a super monster code-named Zero, sleeping. I will tell you the location immediately and take you directly there. By the way, Emma must also know the location. Hearing Eric's words, Shu Heng is very satisfied. Hope us, happy cooperation. Everything is handed over. Eric told Shu Heng a lot of core secrets, including the number of the Emperor's Antarctic base, the way they attack the Antarctic base, their tactical layout, and their detailed action plan. In addition, it also includes the detailed sleeping location of the monster, the detailed method of unblocking the monster, and the air traffic control location where the ice bomb was detonated. And all the action plans and layouts of their Imperial Organization. After all, Eric didn't want to endure that feeling of suffocation again. Just as Shu Heng and the Imperial Organization were about to set off. Sudden, ding 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 ding. A cell phone rang, which were two that Shu Heng had snatched from terrorists before, and one of them was given to Shu Xiaojia. Therefore, now it can only be called by Shu Xiaojia. Line connected. Shu Xiaojia's 5.4 tone came from the phone. Hello, Shu Heng, are you there? Well, I'm here, how's the progress on your side? Xu Heng asked Xu Xiaojia, who also wanted to know about Xu Xiaojia. Xu Heng, I listened to you and found Mark and Dr. Qin Zi. Their base is indeed monitoring Godzilla, and everything is normal now. However, I actually received signals from other students in this base, is my former classmate in the martial arts club. He told me that Shang Feng and many other people in the martial arts department all chose the human camp, and they all chose to protect human beings. Right now, Shang Feng's group is in contact with the senior management of He Chinese to start cooperation. Quote, I hope to mobilize all the weapons and equipment of Heguo to prevent the monsters from awakening and protect everyone. Xu Xiaojia's voice was a little anxious. Obviously, she felt that Shang Feng was causing them a lot of trouble. Understood, you pay attention to safety. As for Shang Feng, haha, it's a waste of effort, vulnerable to a single blow. Xu Heng's indifferent voice sounded. The information Xu Xiaojia gave was still useful to Xu Heng, at least he knew the actions of other people in the same school. But does he care? Don't care. According to his plan, He Guo had better be dispatched across the country, so that he would kill quickly. Xu Heng hung up the phone. Immediately after, a majestic qi burst out from him again, supporting Xu Heng's body slowly floating in the air. Then, under the shocked and terrified eyes of everyone, he carried Emma and some necessary weapons, and his entire body flew towards the sky like a rocket. Antarctica, alien creatures, Ghidorah, the king of monsters. I'm coming, global god choice, only I choose Saiyan Bloodline 59. Chapter 59. Chapter 59. The genius of the martial arts department, Xiao Tianqian. In Heguo, a magnificent building stands tall. This is the office building of high-level people from Heguo. In an office in the building, Shang Feng and others surrounded a table and were having a meeting. These are all students of the martial arts department, and they were also at the top of the combat power list at the time of the freshman test. In addition to Shang Feng's match with Master Roshi, there are also several Tian Shinhan, Kelling's matchers. When they were tested as freshmen, their combat power was more than 50. They belonged to official warriors. In this world, to ordinary people, everyone was like a god. The person sitting at the top of the conference table at this moment was not Shang Feng, but a strange figure. Xiao Tianqian. It is the teacher of the martial arts department, the super genius arranged in the freshman training. Last year, in his freshman test, his combat power value almost reached 400, which was higher than Xu Xiaojia. After a year of study and experience, his combat power is now close to 700. And 700 combat power is only his test data 2 months ago. Now, its real strength is definitely stronger. At this moment, Xiao Tianqian closed his eyes tightly, ignoring the voices of the people around him. Senior Tianqian. Suddenly, a voice sounded, it was Shang Feng. Just now, the senior officials of Heguo sent a notice that they have agreed to cooperate with us. Now, we can get a lot of weapons and equipment support, and even, when necessary, can mobilize their troops. Yeah. Xiao Tianqian responded lightly. Listening to Shang Feng's report, he didn't open his eyes at all. Beside him, Shang Feng looked at Xiao Tianqian with a flattering expression and continued talking. Senior Tianqian is still amazing. Just now, alone, I resisted the attack of 10 pistols. Hundreds of bullets hit the body, leaving only a little scratch, and even the skin was not broken. It shocked all the senior officials of Heguo and made them surrender directly. Otherwise, it would take a lot of words to convince them. Also, even if they agree to cooperate and support, they will definitely not. It's so big. As for mobilizing the army, it's completely impossible. They can cooperate so well. All of this is the credit of Senior Tians. Shang Feng sat next to Xiao Tianqian, bragging about Xiao Tianqian's record enthusiastically. But Xiao Tianqian didn't open his eyes at all, and obviously had no interest in these things. Where's Xu Heng? Did you find it? After a while, he was really getting impatient. Xiao Tianqian said lightly, he only cared about where Xu Heng was. His purpose in stepping into this ruin was to kill Xu Heng. Otherwise, he would not enter this relic of freshman experience. Hearing Xiao Tianqian's question, Shang Feng quickly replied, Senior, don't worry, Xu Heng has been found. Just now, I asked my classmates in the martial arts department to send special encrypted signals to every base in the world through radio waves. As long as Shu Xiaojia is at the base, they will definitely be able to receive these signals. Shu Xiaojia didn't know. We sent signals to every base. She must have thought we were looking for her specifically. After receiving the signal, as long as she responded, we would know where she was. And just now she has take the bait and respond to us. She is now at base 54, and I have sent someone to find her. That Shu Hang, without a doubt, must be next to Shu Xiaojia. Hearing this, that Xiao Tianqian finally opened his eyes and nodded slowly, not bad. Seeing Xiao Tianqian's affirmation, Shang Feng was encouraged and even more excited. Relax, senior, just now we have applied to the senior officials of Heguo and mobilized a large number of weapons. Not only are there countless machine guns and artillery, there are hundreds of rockets, and even dozens of heavy tanks. Not only that, but also various mine traps. It can be said to be a net of heaven and earth. As soon as that Shu Hang appears, we will immediately swarm. At that time, that Shu Hang will definitely have no way to survive. Shang Feng excitedly talked about his plans and arrangements. Well, the arrangement is good, Xiao Tianqian nodded again, but it's not enough. We will have to deploy another 20 gunships to prevent Shu Hang from running away. That's right, Shang Feng slapped his thigh when he heard Xiao Tianqian's words. It's still the thoughtful thinking of the senior. With another 20 planes, by then, even if he runs to the ends of the earth, he will be able to hunt him down. Shang Feng said bitterly. This time, in order to kill Shu Hang, he made a lot of preparations. Find and mobilize a large number of conventional weapons and equipment. There is also this super strength senior with a combat power of 700. Also, there is also a secret weapon that only he knows, the seal scroll given to him by the teacher. A blow from a king-level powerhouse. It can be said that in Shang Feng's view, Shu Hang is basically certain to die. Hee, Shu Hang, dare to choose the monster camp, see if I don't teach you a lesson. That's all for the monster camp. It's still a nightmare level difficulty. It's really wishful thinking and extremely arrogant. Shang Feng's self-talking voice sounded, and the classmates next to him also agreed when they heard this. That's right, Shu Hang, who dares to choose a nightmare level mission, doesn't care about our classmates from the human camp at all. Before in the Dream Relics, he had murdered the same kind. This time, he chose the monster camp. I think he is a deranged antisocial personality and should be eliminated as soon as possible. The whole person swelled to the sky, and I really regarded myself as a peerless master. Indeed, what if the mental strength is strong? If you have the ability to resist bullets like Senior Tianqian, it is estimated that you will be killed by one shot. In the office, everyone expressed their disdain for Shu Hang. In their opinion, Shu Hang is just a little bit stronger in spiritual power, and in this physical ruin, it has no effect. The so-called combat effectiveness test is not allowed at all. Otherwise, how can a waste bloodline surpass these geniuses? All right. When everyone was talking, Xiao Tianqian, who was sitting in the first place, spoke up. The office suddenly fell silent. Since we have successfully reached an agreement with the senior management of Heguo, it is time for us to go. As far as I know, Shu Hang is not the only one who chooses the monster camp. Just from the logistics department, I know that there are at least 5, and many people are in the country. These people, we have to deal with them first. Let's go. After speaking, Xiao Tianqian got up and walked towards the door of the office. Behind him, a group of people waited and immediately followed. Beyond the monster ruins, 3 huge statues of Godzilla stand in a triangular shape. In the middle of the triangle area, the mysterious and complex teleportation formation was empty. All the students have been teleported into the ruins. On the open space next to the magic circle, next to the ambulance, several people who looked like doctors were discussing with each other. So far, everyone has gone in and everything is normal. It's normal now, but that doesn't mean it's normal in the future. After the students come out at night, we'll be busy. Do you think how many casualties will there be in this month's training? When the students chose the difficulty level before, the casualty rate was 30%. For every 3 people, there was 1 casualty. This time, I heard that there is still a nightmare level quest. After this month, I don't know how many breaths are left. Suddenly, I was really looking forward to it. If this student who chose nightmare level can come out normally, it would be a sensation. Quote. I also want to see and see. To know the nightmare level tasks, even the top universities in China will only have one for several years, and they are still the kind of idiots who are crazy and have water in their brains. What's the hurry? Anyway, the flow of time is different. A month has passed inside, only one day outside, you can see it at night. Several doctors chatted with each other. Next to them is a team of military guards. The middle and high level in the military are also paying attention and discussing this relic experience. The students who came this time have very strong self-confidence. There are people who choose nightmare difficulty, and there are still two. They belong to the same team. I heard that one of them was invited by our military personnel and declined. I know this, it's the boss of Ling Kangfang who invited him in person. This card face is much older than our group. It's a month of practice inside, but only one day outside. At night, I really want to see who actually rejected Ling Kangfang. On the far right of the open space is the temporary location of the school teachers. The logistics, martial arts department, and scientific research department, etc., teachers from major colleges are all here. Compared with the heated discussions between doctors and the military, the atmosphere here is much cooler. Many teachers are worried about their students and are not in the mood to discuss. However, in this atmosphere, a voice suddenly sounded. This time the ruins experience is so dangerous, Xu Heng actually chooses a nightmare-level mission, which is too out of his control. One of the teachers in the martial arts department suddenly spoke up, breaking the silence of everyone here. His name is Hong Shan, and he is the leading teacher of the martial arts department. In the last Dream Relic, the martial arts department was also led by this teacher Hong Shan. Now, Hong Shan opened his mouth and pointed at the logistics department. Xu Heng, who thought he won the first place, was arrogant and chose a nightmare-level task without authorization. In the school, the teacher can let him, but the relic monster won't let him. The most important thing is that Xu Xiaojia, an extraordinary bloodline, was also bewitched by Xu Heng and ran to choose a nightmare-level mission. If something were to happen, the loss would be quite large. At that time, you can afford this responsibility. It's fine if you go crazy, but you are still bewitching your classmates, let's go crazy together. Xu Tian, you're a teacher, and you don't even care about him. It's too easy to be a teacher. It doesn't matter at all. Hong Shan opened his mouth with a series of ridicule, bombarding the logistics teacher. And none of the teachers in the logistics department came out to refute. Obviously, they are also a little guilty, thinking that they have not stopped Xu Heng, and they are indeed not responsible enough, in front of the crowd of teachers in the logistics department. Xu Tian stood silently, hearing Hong Shan's words, his heart was also very uneasy. Although what Hong Shan said was very unpleasant. However, that reasoning is indeed very correct. As Xu Heng's teacher, he really should let Xu Heng recognize his own strengths correctly, and he shouldn't just pick a task that is beyond his own difficulty. At that time, in class, when the students formed a team with each other, he was only slightly surprised to hear Xu Heng say that he would choose a nightmare-level task. He originally thought that Xu Heng deliberately made an exaggerated choice because he didn't want to form a team with others, so as to scare away the people around him. However, he never imagined that Xu Heng was serious, and he chose the 360-level task without hesitation. Not only that, this Xu Xiaojia even got together with Xu Heng. I also chose a nightmare-level mission, which is also a monster camp. In one day, 2 consecutive students who chose the nightmare rank, this is a rare situation in 10 years. At that time, seeing Xu Heng and Xu Xiaojia, both of them chose the nightmare-level task at the same time, and Xu Tian's heart was trembling. The logistics department has been in a silent decline for an unknown number of years. In these years, it has basically been unable to find any good talents, and all of them are students who have been forced to transfer in. Therefore, when Xu Tian saw Xu Heng, he seemed to see the hope of the rise of the logistics department. Later, Xu Tian heard that Xu Xiaojia wanted to transfer to the logistics department. At that time, he was calm on the surface, but inside he was ecstatic. As a result, he did not expect to be killed. In this experience, these 2 people actually chose the most difficult task at the same time. If this were to lose one, the whole hospital would be extremely heartbroken. What if both happened? Even if the school doesn't deal with him, he will probably have to take the blame and resign. However, Xu Tian did not express these thoughts. Facing the question of Hong Shan from the Martial Dao department, Xu Tian did not respond too much. The matter has come to this point, even if he regrets it, it is useless, so he just said lightly. Hehe, you guys still need to care about Shang Feng first. This time the ruins are not a dream. If he actively seeks death, he can't blame others. Hong Shan of the martial arts department spread his hands indifferently, really. If something happens to Shang Feng, you may suffer too. After all, don't forget who his brother is. Hearing Hong Shan's words, Shu Tian slightly stunned. Then he responded, his brother. A junior, he should be practicing in the fog right now. It's not his turn to take care of it here. After Hong Shan heard this, he snorted and ignored it. Finally, the atmosphere here has returned to the cold again. Inside the monster ruins, Antarctica, two figures shot rapidly in the air. It was Xu Hang, who was looking for the king of monsters, and Emma. Global God Choice. Only I choose Saiyan Bloodline 60. Chapter 60. Chapter 60. Xu Hang, Invincible Strength, Super Soldier. Antarctica, everywhere vast expanse of sky snowstorms, blowing everywhere feather-like snowstorm. Even the line of sight, or for snow every now and then to the shelter, the air seemed a blur. Occasionally, there are lightning across. Dark sky, bright moment, then suddenly dark. The world of ice and snow, icebergs in especial, a very huge body, which was sealed in. Within the ice, three head, looming, a large body, like the building of hundreds of layers, like, straight into the sky. Great film wings, clouds of expansion. Each of the toes, as if heavy trucks are generally large. An adult walking past, yet this monster high instep. And this was from another planet, code-named, Zero, King of the Monsters, Jaduola. At the moment, 6 eyes on Jaduola's skull, all closed, apparently it is in the midst sleeping. Here, in addition to the sound of thunder snow, no other sound. Throughout the year, forever. At this time, distant skyline side, the sudden appearance of 2 black spots, then black spots more and more, and finally into 2 human form. It came fast of Xu Hang and Emma. They would have reached the South Pole, because the weather was too bad, the line of sight is not very clear, the magnetic field positioning equipment, but also because of the problem of inaccurate, difficult to find very large, it has not been found Jaduola detailed sleeping point. At the moment the 2 men, is slowly floating in the sky. Emma outer tears, wrapped tightly. Outermost wearing a thick down jacket, neck scarf wound round and round. But it still cannot resist, ultra-low temperature Antarctic. Emma at this point, the whole body shaking from time to time. Teeth are constantly trembled with cold. In contrast, Xu Hang it is extremely thin, the body will only wore a long-sleeved monolayer. Difficult road, not, cold, Emma trembled with cold, and asked to Xu Hang. The temperature here, but several degrees below 0 looking only wearing a long-sleeved spring of Xu Hang, Emma was incredible. She almost wrapped himself into a ball, the body is still in constant shaking, teeth are chattering. But Xu Hang, seemed not feel a thing. One thing, right. Xu Hang hear Emma's question, replied dismissively. He is not like Emma, can only rely on clothes to resist the cold, harnessing the power of his own air. The temperature can be isolated from the outside world, although some consumption, but not a big problem. Xu Hang carrying Emma, from memory, constantly flying back and forth in the sky. 4 eyes constantly fire. Look, there. Suddenly, Emma gasped, seemed to find anything. Xu Hang looked along the line of sight of Emma. I saw, among the numerous icebergs, within a specific area, a humble iceberg stands. However, inside the iceberg, it was faintly visible, as if a huge monster was roaring upwards. After Xu Hang saw it, he hurriedly took Emma and flew straight over. After constant searching, we finally succeeded in finding the sleeping place of the King of Monsters. Now, it's still sleeping, Xu Hang said to Emma, looking at the body inside the ice layer. Bombs, or rockets, Emma shouted excitedly. We can deliver bombs and bury them in all directions on the top, bottom, left, and right sides of the ice layer. With a single order, the iceberg can be blown to pieces. Come here, it's easy to blow up the ice. Emma came up with an idea and wanted to use a weapon to blow up the iceberg. Slow. That's too slow. Xu Hang looked at the iceberg and felt the breath of the huge body inside the iceberg. At this time, Ghidorah was sealed in the ice and seemed to be motionless. However, Shu Heng could sense that the aura in the iceberg was slowly growing, and it was estimated that it would not be long before he could fully recover and wake up completely. You must know that this one in front of you is the king of monsters. Once it wakes up completely, its power will be completely released. Then its strength can reach the level of rank 5 beasts, comparable to the human lord level. At that time, no one will be able to deal with this terrifying guy. Now, Ghidorah, who is sleeping, is weak, and it is the best time to conquer and control it. You said it was too slow, Tilda. Emma's voice sounded, and she looked at Shu Heng. Missiles are already the fastest solution. No missiles needed, Shu Heng responded indifferently. Emma was a little puzzled. No missiles. Then what? A shovel. Kamehameha. What? Emma was very puzzled, with a big question mark on her face. What the hell is that? Emma looked puzzled. She didn't understand what Shu Heng was talking about. Could it be faster than a missile? More powerful than missiles? However, Shu Heng didn't talk nonsense with him. The aura of the whole body unfolded, and he was about to start accumulating energy. Ding 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 ding. Suddenly, the sound of the phone ringing kept coming, and Shu Heng stopped charging. Shu Xiaojia's phone call via satellite signal. The call is connected. Hello, Shu Heng. How are you over there? Is it safe? Shu Xiaojia's voice came out. Everything is normal, Shu Heng replied to Shu Xiaojia. That's great, my side is also very safe, Shu Xiaojia's cheerful voice sounded, but I have something rather annoying. I met a classmate from the martial arts department before, and he kept chatting with me. Has been pestering me. I'm annoying, I can't call you anytime. Now on my side, Godzilla's breath has begun to grow rapidly. Furthermore, Godzilla seems to be very restless. In the sea, he kept tossing and turning, as if he was about to run out of sleep. Shu Heng had a general judgment after hearing what Shu Xiaojia said. Yeah, I see, hang up first. Shu Heng explained some things to pay attention to and hung up. Then, Shu Heng turned his attention to Ghidorah in the ice layer again. At the same time, the aura on his own body also began to rise slowly and began to gather chi. Ah! A low groan came from the crack in the ice. Seemingly feeling that the rising aura on Shu Heng's body brought a huge threat, Ghidorah in the ice began to be restless. Hearing this murmur, Emma next to Shu Heng was shocked. It seems to be about to wake up. What should we do? Also notify the headquarters to launch missiles. Shu Heng was silent, ignoring Emma. Afterwards, he simply fell down and placed Emma above the iceberg in the distance. Then go back to Ghidorah. Without Emma talking nonsense next to him, the chi in Shu Heng's body surged rapidly, without reservation, and completely released. The snowflakes fluttering around were pushed away by Shu Heng's aura, forming a spherical area that the wind and snow couldn't penetrate. The spherical gas field is constantly stretched. 1 meter, 10 meters, 30 meters, 90 meters. In the end, Shu Heng formed a spherical aura area with a diameter of hundreds of meters. In the aura, the wind and snow did not enter, it was like a vacuum. In Shu Heng's hands, a dazzling light flickered, and the light continued to increase, covering Shu Heng's entire body. In the sky, like the sun, turtle, pi, chi, gong. A blast. A huge beam of light shot frantically from Shu Heng's hands. Then slammed into the iceberg where Ghidorah was. In an instant, the iceberg, several hundred meters high, collapsed directly. Boom 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 boom. The sound of the ice layer bursting kept coming. Inside the iceberg, Ghidorah let out a howl of pain. Originally, its aura was constantly increasing, and it would not be long before it recovered normally. But all of this was directly interrupted by Shu Heng, who suddenly became weak and was seriously injured. This is it, Kamehameha. On the iceberg in the distance, Emma looked at everything Shu Heng had done, and her face was full of shock. It turns out that before, the beam of light that conquered Mothra was actually sent by humans. She thought it was a particle cannon. Shu Heng can fly, which is beyond her imagination. This kind of destructive behavior that directly destroys the world is dozens of times greater than the impact of flying on her. Emma's unbelievable voice sounded. Humans can actually launch energy waves out of thin air. If this kind of power hit me just now, she shuddered fiercely. She couldn't imagine what would happen if this kind of power was used in war. However, human beings, how can they launch such a huge energy wave? In addition to being shocked, her mind was full of doubts. After a long time, she suddenly became excited again. If you can study the principle of this, isn't that it is possible to directly create a powerful super soldier? The excitement on her face turned into a frenzy. I must figure out the science behind this. Shu Heng didn't know Emma's violent tumbling mentality behind him. His attention was all on Ghidorah. At this moment, the ice layer on Ghidorah's body has been completely eliminated. However, Ghidorah was unable to get up. It slumped weakly to the ground, even its head slumped down, and its wings were spread limply. Feeling the powerful aura in front of him, it seemed a little scared and dazed. Ghidorah. At this moment, a voice entered its mind. It was Shu Heng who used the Orca device to translate his words to Ghidorah. Ghidorah, who was dazed and terrified, lifted a head with difficulty and looked at Shu Heng in the sky. Who are you? In its throat, a low voice sounded, the air shook, and there was a turmoil. You don't need to know who I am, Shu Heng signaled to Ghidorah, you just need to know, surrender to me. Maybe die immediately. Submit to me and destroy humanity. I will kill you now. Shu Heng used Oka to communicate with Ghidorah constantly, without too much nonsense, and directly cut off the request. Ghidorah must obey him. The colleague who communicated, the aura around Shu Heng began to soar again. The surrounding spherical aura opened up again. If Ghidorah is unwilling to surrender, he will shoot directly and kill Ghidorah. Anyway, his final plan is to destroy it. Agree, I am willing to surrender. Ghidorah's somewhat flustered voice sounded, and it felt Shu Heng's renewed aura, which was a precursor to wanting to take another shot. So, it hastily obeyed Shu Heng's proposal. Very good, swallow this thing. Shu Heng nodded and threw out a black box that was quietly brought from the Emperor's organization. Ghidorah did not dare to hesitate and swallowed it. This is a miniature antimatter bomb made by humans. The outside is wrapped in a special material, which will not be digested by you, nor will it be discharged. The remote control is on my side. Next, I hope you can be honest and do things for me. Shu Heng speaks again. Roar. Ghidorah roared, but the next moment, he quickly lowered his head. The miniature bomb in the body can clearly perceive the threat it brings. Maybe not enough to let myself die. However, once it explodes in the body and causes damage, the human being in front of him must have enough power to kill himself. A very wise choice. Seeing Ghidorah bowing his head, Shu Heng smiled. Then now, start restoring your strength. 10 minutes later, Ghidorah struggled to his feet. The head is high, the wings are spread, and the sky is covered. Witnessing this scene with my own eyes is more shocking than Ghidorah in the ice just now. On its body, a yellow light began to flicker continuously. As time passed, the light became more and more intense, and in the air, Shu Heng could clearly feel that the energy between the surrounding heaven and earth was constantly pouring towards Ghidorah. In the distance, Emma looked at Ghidorah's body covering the sky and Shu Heng, who was suspended in front of Ghidorah's head, and she was shocked. Ghidorah actually surrendered, the good king's him. This, how did you do it? If you can control all the monsters, then, Emma couldn't imagine it anymore. Monarch Organization, C, Base 54. This is Godzilla's sleeping spot, a massive steel pontoon base resting on the sea. Under the sea, Godzilla's lizard-like body was constantly rolling over, stirring the seawater around. It has thick thorns on its back. At this moment, these spikes are flashing blue light from time to time, illuminating the dark seabed with blue light. In its mouth, it continued to make a sharp howl, and it seemed restless, as if it was going to go berserk at any time. On the sea around the base, dozens of armed helicopters are constantly surrounding the base. On the helicopter, looking at the surging sea water, the soldiers inside looked a little flustered. This is a demon, we are actually monitoring the demon. It won't tear down the base. With a body as high as 100 meters, it starts to go crazy, and none of us can escape. How can such a monster exist in the world? Antarctica, where Shu Heng is located. At this time, Ghidorah, on the body, the yellow light, more intense. Head, raised high. The wings also appeared to be full of power, constantly waving, the wind was blowing, and snowflakes were blown all over the place. Suddenly, Ghidorah, with 3 heads and 6 eyes, suddenly opened. Chi-Chi looked at Shu Heng. In the throat, a low voice came out, I feel the breath of Godzilla, I want to kill it.